It's a lot of hypocrisy going on, man, and it's really hilarious how some of these Paige Bueckers fans are making her day about. Caitlin Clark was trending at #1 over Dawn Staley and Paige Bueckers for a little bit right after UConn won, right? I wouldn't even say a little bit. It had to be like a 2-hour run. But she was #1, right? Ring on Paige finger, no ring on Caitlin finger. And gonna put the little asterisk. Paige better than Caitlin, just in case Real forgot. We counting rings here.
It's a lot of hypocrisy going on, man, and it's really hilarious how some of these Paige Bueckers fans are making her day about Caitlin Clark. Paige Bueckers is moving the needle more than Caitlin Clark ever could. That's what the haters started saying literally minutes after UConn cut down the nets. But are they living in an alternate reality for someone that was literally not even playing in the game? Clark sure lived rent-free in a lot of heads during the national championship, and so did great. Storybook ending by pitting Bueckers against her. Caitlin Clark was trending at #1 over Dawn Staley and Paige Bueckers for a little bit right after UConn won, right? I wouldn't even say a little bit, it had to be like a 2-hour run, but she was #1, right? Ring on Paige finger, no ring on Caitlin finger, and going to put the little asterisk. Paige better than Caitlin just in case Real forgot. We counting rings here. The viewership numbers tell a completely different story, one that exposes just how powerful Clark's impact on women's basketball really is. If you've been wondering whether the post-Clark era can maintain the momentum, the data we're about to share might surprise you. Are you ready? Let's go. And some of the same people who didn't want people comparing Caitlin Clark to Paige and Guju, they're doing the same thing, man. It's really ridiculous. It's really ridiculous, man. They couldn't even allow Paige Bueckers to have her day. The scoreboard told the story in no uncertain terms. UConn 82. South Carolina 59. It wasn't just a win, it was a statement. The Huskies had just dismantled the once dominant South Carolina in a championship performance that perfectly capped Paige Bueckers' comeback journey after missing an entire season with an ACL tear that threatened to derail her college career. Bueckers had reached basketball's promised land, standing amid falling confetti with a trophy that represented everything she'd fought through. The UConn Huskies defeated South Carolina 82-59 to win the national championship. Now this is the 12th national title under coach Geno Auriemma. This UConn team was kind of a prime example of peeing at the right moment, because for the past 2 months they have been absolutely unstoppable. The victory marked Geno Auriemma's 12th national championship, an achievement that stands alone in the college basketball world. His coaching legacy, already secure, now seems almost mythical on the court. Players embraced, tears flowed, nets were cut. This is the biggest Big Three, the most talented Big Three that I can remember in recent history, and these three just coming together. Obviously with the role players around them, they have just looked like a well-oiled machine. They breezed through the tournament. I don't know if there was any close game that they had during this tournament, including the national championship game. Sarah Strong, UConn's freshman phenom, had delivered a breakout performance that hinted at the program's bright future. Meanwhile, AZ Fudd had completed her own comeback story, contributing crucial minutes after battling through injury struggles that paralleled Bueckers' own journey, winning the Most Outstanding Player award. Paige bowled out in the tournament, and before this national championship game she had a 30-point game, a 40-point game, and then another 30-point game, and Paige ended off the game with 17 points in this national championship game. But she also landed third on most points in the NCAA tournament, so she ended with 477 points. Now Caitlin Clark holds this record at 492 points in 17 games played, and then Micah Hollisclaw, she has 479 points in 22 games played, and Paige scored 477 points in 22 games played, so she's third on that list. She is in great company, and she had a fantastic tournament. But while champagne bottles were still being uncorked in the locker room, something ugly was brewing online. The celebration had barely begun when social media timelines filled with an entirely different narrative, one that wasn't about celebrating the Huskies' achievement, but instead about using it as ammunition in a manufactured rivalry. Former NBA player Ethan Thomas fired one of the first shots, posting, "So when I asked why Paige Bueckers doesn't get the fawning over like Caitlin Clark, many responded that she just wasn't as good and not a generational talent. Well, now she won a championship, something Caitlin Clark didn't do, so y'all still stand by that, or is it something else? Paige has more rings that I guess than Caitlin Clark. I mean, made this whole day about Paige getting the ring over Caitlin Clark. It's crazy, man. Paige going out in a way that Caitlin couldn't, a national champion. That's the separator behind their legendary careers. Let's effing go." Within minutes, what should have been Paige's moment transformed into a referendum on Caitlin Clark. Rather than discussing Bueckers' surgical dismantling of South Carolina's defense or her leadership throughout the tournament, commentators and fans alike rushed to position her accomplishment as evidence in the ongoing debate about who deserves more attention, more praise, more recognition. Ring on Paige finger, but no ring on Caitlin finger. Ring on Paige finger, no ring on your finger, Caitlin. I mean, they made it all about Caitlin, bro. Paige Bueckers more rings than Caitlin Clark. Hey man, this is crazy. Work. The shift happened with lightning speed. 1 minute basketball fans were witnessing the culmination of an inspiring comeback story. The next they were drowning in hot takes comparing two players who have each contributed immensely to women's basketball in their own unique ways. Suddenly terms like moving the needle dominated the conversation, with Bueckers' championship being wielded as, at this point, I think Caitlin is Michael Jordan, cuz everybody is chasing her legacy. At least that's what the fans are making it seem like. It's just crazy to me how ESPN don't have Caitlin Clark as one of the best players in college or women's basketball, but for some reason every women's basketball player is supposedly chasing her legacy. The genuine joy radiating from the court stood in stark contrast to the divisive, often mean-spirited conversations unfolding online. Players who had just accomplished something historic found their achievement immediately recontextualized as merely one data point in an argument they themselves had never asked to be part of. Now you do have some Caitlin Clark fans getting on Twitter as well and calling them out. I never heard of people putting down certain players for winning a natty until Caitlin Clark didn't win. That's a fact. Paige want a ring, but every tweet I see is about Caitlin levels. Why y'all bringing up Caitlin? It's crazy, man, it's crazy. Like I don't understand it, man. UConn won it all, and all my timeline shows is Caitlin tears, man. Y'all can't celebrate something in peace. Behind all the hot takes and heated Twitter threads lies something much more revealing: cold hard data. While social media warriors boldly claimed Paige Bueckers was moving the needle more than Caitlin Clark, the television ratings tell a dramatically different story when you strip away the opinions and look at the actual numbers. The contrast between 2024 and 2025 viewership isn't just noticeable, it's stunning. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but everybody keeps telling me that Paige Bueckers is going to move the needle in the WNBA in the same way that Caitlin Clark did. Well, maybe she will, but I know one thing in college, and that needle ain't moving. That needle didn't shiver compared to Caitlin Clark. Let's get specific with the numbers. The 2024 Final Four matchup between Iowa and UConn drew an astronomical 14.2 million viewers. You read that right, 14.2 million people tuned in to watch Caitlin Clark face off against Paige Bueckers and the Huskies last year in a riveting semis. That single game alone became a cultural touchstone, drawing casual fans and basketball diehards alike. Then came the final game of Caitlin Clark in the 2024 finals against South Carolina, a whopping 18.9 million viewers, the most viewed women's college game in history. It wasn't the Caitlin Clark effect, but it was still pretty impressive. Look, I got to be honest, this 8-12 million viewers that they drew on Sunday, I'm not going to lie, that's more than I thought it would be. I mean, so I guess if we're going to give them any flowers, they drew a bigger rating than I thought they were going to. So there's that, which was the third most in tournaments history per ESPN, but it was a steep decline from last year's game and a slight drop from 2023's matchup. So 2023 and 2024 both whipped this particular game. Now fast forward to 2025, where UConn and South Carolina, the same two teams Clark broke viewing records against, would face up. You'd imagine if Clark were not moving the needle, then these two powerhouse teams would still achieve the same success. Right here's where facts don't lie. The Final Four games featuring UConn versus UCLA and South Carolina versus Texas pulled in 4.1 million and 3.6 million viewers respectively. Then came the finals between UConn and South Carolina that pulled a whopping, wait for it, 8.5 million viewers. Yes, these numbers still made it the third most watched finals, a commendable achievement worth celebrating, but the drop-off from the previous year is impossible to ignore. The title game in 2024 brought in a record-setting 18.9 million viewers as fans watched Dawn Staley's South Carolina team complete an undefeated season and beat the Clark-led Iowa Hawkeyes 87-75, even with Staley's Gamecocks taking on another superstar in Paige Bueckers and UConn led by great coach Geno Auriemma. The game could not stack up to 2024's. The math isn't complicated. More than 10 million viewers who watched women's college basketball in 2024 simply didn't show up in 2025. That's not a small dip or minor fluctuation, it's a massive exodus of eyeballs. When someone moves a needle, it's typically by a few percentage points. When Caitlin Clark moves it, the dial spin